January 11th. Well, it was almost a forgotten part of their mission how a memento left by astronauts gave the universe a message of peace from Earth. You're watching Fox 4 News at 7.
It's been almost 40 years since man first put his first foot on the moon, first feet on the moon. Of course, we're talking about Apollo 11, launched way back in 1969, July of that year. All eyes were on America. I remember it distinctly as a child growing up. Two astronauts who first walked on the moon almost forgot, though, a very, very important part, I guess you could say in a sense, of their mission. Joining us right now is Dr. Tahir Rahman, who is going to or has written a book called We Came in Peace for All of Mankind. It's the untold story of the Apollo 11 silicone disc. Doctor, first of all, welcome. And we were just talking, you were 10 months old when this happened, so you don't really remember it all that well, but you remember growing up and hearing all about it, right?
Yes, thanks for having me here. It's a real pleasure to be here. And one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind was those immortal words. And I think I wasn't old enough to appreciate that, but certainly is an icon of America.
And this really actually goes all the way back to the early 60s when JFK was the first one who said, this is my goal, should be our nation's goal, let's get to the moon. And it was a very different time in America because, you know, the moon was, first of all, such a out there object, but there was a space race going on. It was really kind of crazy.
Absolutely. John F. Kennedy is really one of the main reasons why we went. And when Kennedy was president, Alan Shepard only had 15 minutes of flight time. Wow. And here he was in front of Congress saying, we're going to the moon. And he said, at Rice University, we choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And he really wanted to send a message to the world that America was going to lead the way.
Everybody's very familiar with, once we did get on the moon, we planted the flag, which I guess in a sense was kind of controversial because to a certain extent, we didn't want to come across as looking like the moon was a U.S.-owned territory, right?
That's right. And NASA, the State Department, and the Nixon administration at that time were planning these events. And one of the focuses came up was the flag. Should we put up an American flag or a UN flag? And of course the Congress said, this is an American project, we want the U.S. flag planted. And Alexis Johnson of the State Department said, you know, that usually means you're taking over something. You're planting your country's flag. So they came up with the creative idea, and that was a plaque which states, here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon. We came in peace for all mankind. And then they set about asking for messages of goodwill from all the nations of the earth. And they sent out about 116 letters. And Administrator Thomas Paine at NASA coordinated all of this. And there are messages that came in from the Vatican, from Queen Elizabeth.
And that's kind of what your book kind of details. You've got all the individual messages, at least during, I don't want to mark it up here, but at least during the second part of the book, that's what your book kind of talks about, right? Are all these individual messages that are in text form in the book, but what's fascinating is what they ended up putting on the surface of the moon, and that was this very small, about
tiny,
what? Silver dollar size?
Yeah, it's about the size of a Kennedy $half.
Yeah, silicone disc with all the messages. Are they engraved on there, or how are they put on there?
This is the same technology that's used to build computers, integrated circuit technology.
Oh, yeah, you kind of see it.
And so what we see in a modern computer was brand new cutting-edge technology in 1969. And so all those messages were placed using tiny microcircuit technology onto here. So the messages are smaller than the size of a human hair. And through a microscope, you can read them. And it says real prominently, from planet Earth. And the astronauts almost forgot to leave it. That's the interesting
part of the whole story. So with about 30 seconds to go, the quick part of the story is that they were going back up into their command module or
into the lunar
module.
That's right.
And he had to rip off his shirt patch, or is that what it was?
What happened was, you can hear where Houston is saying to Neil Armstrong, can we confirm you've left the messages with the disc? And Armstrong says no. And for a minute there's confusion about who has it, and he starts heading back towards the lunar module called Eagle. Then Buzz Aldrin realizes, hey, I got this thing in my sleeve pocket, because they had just added it onto the mission right before they left. And he unzipped his sleeve pocket and took the pouch out that contained the disc and a couple other mementos, and he tossed it down. And Neil Armstrong touches it with his boot, and it's still sitting up there today.
And that's the subject of the book. And you're going to be at Barnes & Noble later on today, as a matter of fact.
Correct.
2 o'clock this afternoon to do a book signing. It's real. And we could probably spend another 5 minutes talking about this because we just kind of grazed the surface here. But if you want, go ahead and go to Barnes & Noble this afternoon, 2 o'clock. Which Barnes & Noble?
Leawood Town Center Plaza, 117th and Row.
Very good. And the doctor will be out there. He'll answer more questions about a fascinating time in American history. Okay, they could go ahead and tour